Something's coming up.
I'd like to call to order the Township of North Huntington Board of Commissioners work session meeting for Thursday, January 9th at 7 p.m. Roll call, Manager Falk.
Commissioner Hempel.
Here.
Commissioner Hagus.
Here.
Commissioner Gray.
Here.
Commissioner Zona.
Here.
Commissioner Bevan.
Here.
Commissioner Goss.
Here.
President Atwood.
Here, I ask if you're able to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Is there any citizens that would like to offer any input, please sign the book at the podium. I'd like to take this time to acknowledge the Board of Commissioners had an executive session prior to tonight's public hearing to discuss personnel, legal, and real estate matters. Our first resident is Josh Corcoran. I ask you to come state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, I'm Josh Corcoran. I live at 810 Castleview Drive. I'm here to talk about the road and subdivision. I think I mentioned before, maybe remember that I grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I'm a Penn State graduate, so you know how much this means to me if I'm here right now. Thank you all for being here too. I'd like to think that I'm the type of citizen that this group would want to live in North Huntington. I've been recognized as a Clio Creativity Award, the most prestigious award in creativity. I've been recognized as a Pittsburgh 40 Under 40 by Pittsburgh Magazine. And my company has raised and been responsible for hundreds of thousands of dollars in Westmoreland County. But if there's one thing this experience has taught me, it's that we might have to move. We've been through this with your subcommittee. And before we've ever got here, we were told by them that they can't weigh in on opinion, but only if the group that's applying can meet the criteria and the bar that's been set. And then once we got here, we've been speaking our mind every time, trying to share with you our concerns about safety outside of the criteria of traffic violations, outside of the criteria of what they have to do to be able to be approved for zoning. And even when that was done, some of you courageously said that you agree with us. And at that time, the applicant's lawyer essentially threatened you all to say that if they met the criteria, you had no choice but to approve it. And so I've been thinking about that a lot over the Christmas break. And I realized that he's wrong, because if that were the case, there would only be a subcommittee. There would be no reason for you all to be here. And the three main reasons to deny the application can be found in our zoning ordinance, even if they meet the criteria. One, incompatibility with a comprehensive plan. Even if the zoning request meets all technical zoning criteria, the comprehensive plan takes precedence as the township's guiding document. A zoning request that conflicts with long-term community goals for land use, transportation, infrastructure, or environmental protection can be denied for being inconsistent with the plan. That's Article 2, Section 202. Number 2, negative impact on public welfare. A zoning request can be denied if the proposed use is deemed to pose a risk to public welfare, even if it meets the technical requirements. This includes potential issues like increased traffic congestion, overburdened utilities, or in this case, what we've been speaking about, is diminished quality of life for nearby residents. That's Article 9, Section 909. Last, failure to maintain neighborhood character. The township can deny a zoning request if the proposed use disrupts the character or harmony of the existing neighborhood. It includes concerns about architectural style, density, or introduction of incompatible commercial or industrial uses into the residential areas. That's Article 5, Section 504. So the applicant's lawyer would like you to believe and have you fear that they only have to meet the criteria to receive an approval, and if you don't, that he will take you to court. What I'm here to tell you is that that's not the case. That's your own zoning ordinance. And you all are here for a reason, otherwise we'd just be speaking to the subcommittee in the first place. So I believe that you are here for a reason. I believe that I'm here for a reason, and I hope that you will give me a reason to stay. With that, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Go Penn State.
Yeah, our next resident is Bill Bino. Ask you to come and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Happy New Year to you all. My name is Bill Beno, and I reside at 860 Castleview Drive. And please excuse me for reading this prepared statement because I wanted to make sure I presented it properly. Again, thank you this evening for hearing us regarding the proposed Ronan development. We have presented many concerns over the last few months, but I wanted to touch on a subject that's been mentioned, but I don't think properly addressed and from another perspective. And that's the requirement for a traffic impact and safety study. The developer has stated that a safety study was conducted and that all the boxes required for this application has been satisfied and all checked off. And I disagree with that. Who conducted this study? Well, the study was conducted by the school district as it pertains to pick up and drop off of students while school is in session. Note, while in session. School is not in session during the summer months. It's not in session on the weekends, nor is it in session on spring break or other recess times, on holidays or snow days. And safety is a year-round concern, not just during these selective times. The school district could care less right now about any traffic or safety impact areas outside of this specific interest while school is in session. To satisfy any real traffic and safety impact, a study should usually require the hiring of an independent company who has no involvement, that is, school-only interests, in the outcome of the study, and said company should be recognized as reliable by the township, county, or other reputable body. I don't think that this was actually accomplished. To claim all of the boxes have been satisfactorily checked is both false and misleading. The school district survey is certainly a misrepresentation of any thorough year-round traffic and safety impact to the Altman Farms Castleview area. As an aside, Castleview contains 48 houses with an average of 2 cars per household. Some of them are 3 because they've got live-in young adults. And as a result, this development is going to add an additional 100%, double the number of vehicles in this area. The 48 houses, roughly 100 vehicles, you're doubling all of that traffic impact in that area. It impacts directly the safety of our children, walkers, joggers, bikers, and dog walkers. This also impacts safety with respect to property and vehicle damage due to flooding, runaway vehicles skating down iced roads, parked cars in traffic lanes resulting in driving an obstacle course into and out of the area. Back to the requirements and box checking. As I stated, the traffic and safety report as submitted does not fulfill a requirement for a reasonable study. A proper, accurate, and truthful study and report has not, in my opinion, been submitted, and therefore the application for this project is incomplete. Many other businesses and organizations reviewing an incomplete application often render that application as null and void. The box checking pertaining to safety here is again false and misleading and ultimately incomplete. In conclusion, we, the residents, neighbors, and friends of Altman Farms, respectfully request you ladies and you gentlemen, board members, and concerned citizens to deny, I say again, deny, do not approve this project. Kill it in its tracks. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Our next resident is Ken Plunko. I ask you to come and state your name and address for the record, please.
Ken Plunko, 900 Castleview Drive. So here we are again. Good evening. I'm here to speak on the road and development. As you all know, my fellow neighbors and I have been coming to all these meetings for the Planning Committee and Commissioners Board for the last year and a half to express our concerns, thoughts, and opinions concerning the road and development. I am here this evening to remind you of everything we are still concerned about should this development be approved. I ask that each and every one of you, 9 of you, put yourself in our shoes that live in Altman Farms, please. Why? Why would you want our yards to be flooded by the water runoff? Why? Why would you want our basements of 25 years living there to be flooded? We have all told you we cannot get flood insurance, so I hope you all understand that. Why? Why would you want our neighborhood to be subject to a tremendous amount of extra traffic coming through Altman Farms, especially down 5th and Castleview, because there is only one way in and one way out into the new road and plan? When cars are parked on the road, it is hard to maneuver to see who or what is coming. I don't know if any of you ever come down Castleview Drive to understand how dangerous and what I'm talking about. You have to see it for your own eyes. How are all the big construction trucks going to handle this? Vehicles are running stop signs and speeding, especially on 5th and Altman, as this road is used as a throughway from 993 to 1st Street. Why? Why would you want to create a hazard for school children by adding another bus stop on a double cul-de-sac, making it difficult, if not impossible, to safely turn a bus around? I believe someone spoke to the fact that there is a law that a school bus cannot pick up and drop off children at a bus stop in a plan until it is 90% complete. And the kids cannot walk to a bus stop if it's more than 1 mile away. So here are all these kids going to get to, so how are all these kids going to get to and from the current bus stop at Altman and 5th Street? The bus stop at 5th and Altman is congested with cars and kids when the kids are dropped off and picked up. With the extra traffic, this will make it very dangerous. The bus stop at 5th and Altman is congested with cars and kids when the kids are dropped off and picked up. With the extra traffic, this will make it very, very dangerous. Why? Why would you want to endanger our neighbors who are constantly walking, jogging, riding bikes, walking their dogs on the street, because we have no sidewalks, we have no lights, we have no street lights, especially in the evening when it's dark, and the mornings when kids have to walk to the school bus. We have no street lights and it's pitch black. Add snow and ice to the roads first thing in the morning when the kids are walking to the bus stop before the snow plow and salt trucks come into our plan. Vehicles and large construction trucks cannot stop on an icy road. Why would you want someone to get hit and injured or die? Why would you want to endanger our children who are always outside playing in the front yard and driveways? It's already a challenge to go from a walk or a jog because of the amount of traffic on the streets. We cannot afford to add more traffic. This is an accident waiting to happen. Why would you want to be the individuals responsible for letting this happen? I also want to remind you that we are the people who elected each and every one of you to be our commissioners, to advocate for us and be our voice, to make the best decisions to keep us all safe. We're all asking you to please stand up for us and not let this development go through. Please do not let the threat of a lawsuit persuade each and every one of you from doing the right thing. Lastly, can you answer another question from all of us? Why did Ryan and Schuster not build on this land? There has to be a reason, and I'm sure all of our concerns that we brought up to your attention factor in. Please, no, do not let Miranda build the new road and development. And one more thing that I'd like to add. Everybody says they can't have an access road to Bushy Hill or Bushy Run into this new project. Why hasn't anybody brought up putting an access road from Gina Drive going up to the other plan, the newer plan, making a right, making a development, a road going in that way, instead of coming up off a bushy run because we're hearing that the elevation is too high and you can't do it. So why hasn't anybody brought up making an access road from Gina Drive going into the road and development? Thank you very much for your time.
Our next resident is Nicholas Carosa. Ask you to come and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Nicholas Carosa, and I reside in North Huntington. I address you today not just as a father, a son, or a neighbor, but as an American devoted to the principles that bind us together: truth, justice, and liberty. What I have uncovered in my quest for justice transcends my family's personal hardships. It strikes at the very heart of our township, exposing a corruption that threatens not just individual lives, but the integrity of North Huntington as a whole. This is no longer just my fight, it's our fight, a battle for the soul of our community. Corruption, like a poison, has seeped into the fabric of our institutions. From the ticket-fixing scandal involving Raymond E. Tubbs and the indictment of Jeff Bolden, to the shameful Lisicki incident with Commissioner Harold, we have seen how power left unchecked corrodes public trust. Today, that same disease festers within the North Huntington Police Department, where officers are silenced through fear and citizens are muzzled by township officials like Jason Atwood, who blocks public participation. Meanwhile, our solicitor, Chelsea Dice, issues threats of arrest to those like myself who dare seek justice, sanctioned by Chief Renegade Rizzo, and backed by Township Manager Harry R. Falk, who shamelessly concluded that there was no wrongdoing that had occurred. These individuals are not public servants. They are traitors to the very people they swore to serve. This is not simply a story of institutional failure. It is a deeply human tragedy. Consider Officer Ted Kukic, who faithfully served this township for decades, only to be forced into early retirement for his unwavering integrity. Or think of the first responders who risked their lives at the scene of my family's accident, only to be met with negligence by a system that should have protected them. Let me remind you of the horror surrounding my family's crash. A reckless driver, Nolan Patrick Mullen, barreling at 90 miles per hour, crossed the double line, striking my family head on. And my loved ones fought for their lives. As my loved ones fought for their lives, Mr. Mullen had the audacity to brandish a firearm at first responders. Yet the police returned the weapon and allowed him to walk away from this matter. With his father, Michael Patrick Mullen III. This is the same young man who, despite prior speeding offenses, was still permitted to endanger others on our roads. Even more troubling is the dismissal of the fourth witness, a brave soul who cut Katie's seatbelt and saved her life as he saw Mullen's gun firsthand. This man's testimony was callously disregarded by the officers at the scene. To this day, no one from the police has contacted him. When I approached the district attorney's office for answers, they find ignorance. This is not mere negligence, it is a calculated cover-up. Our district attorney, whose duty is to uphold the law, has refused to intervene. Emails go unanswered, and our so-called victim's advocate has vanished. Why? Because holding law enforcement accountable for their misconduct would unravel the web of corruption they seek to protect. Meanwhile, Mullen walks away with a slap on the wrist, 9 months of house arrest, a paltry fine, and a potential license suspension, and no charges for pointing a gun at those who tried to help. This is not justice, this is a travesty. To the officers of the North Huntington Police Department, you swore an oath not to shield the corruption, but to protect the people and uphold the Constitution. You are the guardians of justice, the first lines of defense against tyranny. Do not falter in the face of corruption. As Thomas Jefferson reminded us, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. Your duty is clear. Confront this corruption, no matter how daunting, and honor the badge you wear. At a starting salary of over $89,000 a year, you are well compensated to uphold this sacred trust. To my fellow citizens, the Constitution is more than a document. It is our shield against oppression, our promise of justice, and our guide towards a better future. As Thomas Paine said, These are the times that try men's souls. Today, our trial is upon us. We will rise to meet it. We have a responsibility to our children and future generations to reclaim our township from those who betrayed their oaths. United we are a force that cannot be ignored. Divided, we risk losing everything. Let us stand together to restore North Huntington to a place of honor and integrity. Let this be our moment to reignite the flame of justice, to protect our community, and hold those in power accountable for their actions. Let us honor those who came before us by taking a stand. No other family should endure the pain and injustice mine has faced. The time for change is now. The torch of liberty is in our hands. Let us carry it forward with courage and resolve. For justice, for integrity, for North Huntington Township. You threatened to have me arrested,
Your
Chief
time is up,
Zona.
sir.
You blocked me
Your
from
time is
public
up, sir.
forum. Where's our chief that gets paid
Your time
$170
is up,
grand
sir.
a year? He hasn't been back to one of these meetings since he was scratching himself like a crackhead on Smithfield Street. I want to know where
Sir,
he's
your
been.
time is up. Our next resident is Greg Rogers. I ask you to come and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Greg Rogers, 501 Janet Drive, North Huntington, PA. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Just wanted to speak about the sports complex. I know when I was here about 3 weeks ago, I know there was a red line version of the lease that went out, just asking a question as to where we are with that particular lease. Just trying to make sure and asking if we could have the opportunity to see the finalized lease and read it over and have a session to at least rebut or ask questions to what has been moved forward in the new lease. Is there any movement on a business plan that you're requiring this particular organization before moving forward with having a lease? Has there been some sort of a lease or feasibility study for outlet of traffic up on Route 30? I know they were talking about a lease with the travel agency for the red light. Have they supplied you with a lease to move that forward? Because once we give up the lease for the land, there is no taking it back. Unless you're gonna put provisions in there if they don't meet certain standards that we're able to take it back. So I would just ask, please let me know in your rebuttal tonight where we stand with the lease. Thank you for your time.
Our next resident is Dan Conwell. I ask you to come and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Dan Conwell, and I reside at 980 Castleview Drive. Once again, thank you for the opportunity to voice our concerns over the road and plan. I'm not going to go through a complete list of concerns, as I'm sure that you're well aware of them after over a year of the residents voicing their concerns, but I did want to emphasize one very important factor, and that is for everyone's safety. Please keep in mind that if this plan does go in, the emergency responses to this area would be very well impacted. There is one way in and one way out. Heaven forbid there is a major emergency, as access to this area would be very extremely limited. As was mentioned earlier and was confirmed, Chief Rizzo minced no words when he mentioned that this would not be a beneficial plan at all for emergency responses or routine patrol. Busing. The Norwin transportation procedure does not allow a bus to come down a cul-de-sac. No other cul-de-sac in the community has a bus enter it. Also, buses will not come into a new plan of homes until at least 90% of that construction is completed. Again, that is based off the Norwin transportation procedures. Has confirmation been made that the first student supervisor actually has visited the site where this turnaround is being proposed? I don't think that question has been answered. Also, please keep in mind that there would not be just one bus to enter that cul-de-sac on a daily basis. They would come down 3 times in the morning and 3 more times in the afternoon, once each for a high school, middle school, and elementary school route run, for a total of 6 times a day. One more time, we ask what makes Castleview Drive such a special road. I am sure that the minimum requirements of all of our concerns have been met. Could we please admit that these are probably minimum requirements, and in all honesty, they are probably the barest of minimum requirements? Please listen once again to all the current residents who have been living here and seriously consider our major concerns for the safety and well-being of our neighborhood. If there is any question or concern in any of your minds about this plan, then the answer should be a sound no. Thank you for your time and sincere consideration of all of our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next resident is Barry Limpo. Ask you come and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, Barry Limpo, 960 Castleview Drive. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I appreciate that you tabled this vote from last month to give us another opportunity to speak, to continue to voice our concerns, and hopefully we've given you guys an opportunity to consider this further, and really understand the negative impact that it's going to have to our community. To keep my comments brief, I'm going to focus specifically on safety concerns regarding the number of homes on a dead-end street. Just doing some Googling, some general guidelines that urban planners and municipalities suggest, that a dead-end street should have no more than 30 to 40 homes to ensure emergency access, to avoid traffic congestion, and to maintain a manageable street design. Some planning standards, such as Institute of Transportation Engineers or the National Fire Protection Association, suggest fewer, no more than 25 to 30 homes should be served with a single access point on a dead-end street. We currently have 49 homes that are served with one outlet, being 5th Street. So it's 49 homes currently that if that street is blocked, we cannot come in and out. They want to double that number. That's very concerning. Honestly, the 49 number is already concerning. This is troubling, trying to double that to nearly 100. I'd like to reread the ordinance that I read last time, but I'm going to just read the relevant portion for brevity. 404.1, cul-de-sac streets are permitted where the total length from the last intersection does not exceed 700 feet. And then it says that exemptions to this requirement may be granted by the Board of Commissioners upon recommendation by the Planning Commission, concurrence by the Township Engineer, and it cannot interfere with the public health, safety, and welfare. Now, when I mentioned this last time, the developer did accurately indicate that they count the nearest intersection rather than the nearest through street. So by letter of the law, I suppose that's accurate. By spirit of the law, I have to wonder, why is this included? Why does this even exist? By this letter of the law, we could have a double cul-de-sac on a double cul-de-sac on a double cul-de-sac ad infinitum. And there would be no limitation to that, right? Because the last intersection, I even wonder if the reason Lindenwood actually exists as a fake road is to bypass that exemption, because they could then call that an intersection so that the far part of Castleview doesn't require the exemption. Because the far part of Castleview is 1,500 feet from 5th Street. That would have required an exemption that I'm not aware occurred. I don't have the ability or means to look that up. But if they called Lindenwood an intersection, air quotes, they could have gotten around it that way. 2,000 feet, the nearest through street, Altman. 700 feet is what the ordinance says. So my proposal is that because this is a clear loophole that is being manipulated here, that the ordinance should be changed, that the word intersection should be changed to nearest through street. Because what is the point of it otherwise? You're allowing you're going to allow infinite dead-end streets as long as you want, as long as you break it up with intersections, it doesn't make sense. It's clear that the intent of this ordinance is to avoid what we're experiencing now, but it was written in a unclear language that has gotten us into this situation. You, as the Board of Commissioners, have the ability to propose an addendum or an adjustment to this that would then also give you more legal backing if the developer does threaten you, as they have already with legal action, that you have a more solid ground of more reason for denying it. However, as the first speaker today noted, you already have this power. The way that the lawyer framed it is inaccurate. Just because they meet all of the criteria does not mean that you are obligated to say yes. You represent us as the citizens first and foremost. We vote for you, and you need to listen to us and voice our concerns, and hopefully vote in that way. So I would ask that the council would oppose any development in this location that does not have a second entrance. As mentioned before, having a single way in and out for this many homes will create a dangerous situation. I would ask that you vote accordingly next week. Thank you for your time.
At this point, we have Commissioner's response to citizens' input. We had numerous speak about the road-in plan. Does anybody want to address anything at this point? Anybody else have anything any other citizens' input?
Let's maybe have one question about the road and plan. Maybe Director Fonzie or Development Director Andrew Covers could answer this, but a few of the residents talk about not being able to get flood insurance. Is Castleview currently in a floodplain? Is that why they might be having trouble getting flood insurance?
No, they are not in a floodplain, but I don't believe that flood insurance is available through insurance companies to people that are outside of a floodplain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is correct. Right. And I guess maybe one follow-up, I believe the first resident, Josh, spoke, and I don't know if I misheard, but I think he was talking about zoning ordinance, not a SALDO plan, where this would fall under a SALDO, not zoning, correct?
Yeah, I think he was citing something out of the zoning ordinance,
yeah.
correct?
I just wanted to make sure though.
Right.
Any other commissioners have any?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Bass?
In light of what Mr. Carosa brought up, I am deeply concerned that any citizen in this community, whether in this community or any community in this country, could ever bring and brandish a weapon towards any type of emergency management service type people, whether it's the police, it's the fire department, it's EMS. I am calling for an investigation. I would like to know if we can bring that fourth person in that I witnessed the brandishing of the weapon, and we must deal with this. We cannot have our officers, our fire department, our EMS at threat or risk of life because somebody's got a hot head. And I'm calling for an investigation. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything, citizens' input? All right, moving on to the work session discussion topics. Manager Falk.
Sure, item number 1 is the fee ordinance. We were getting ready to adopt that late last year. However, there were 1 or 2 changes that were added after the advertisement, so we will need to have a motion from the board to re-advertise that fee ordinance.
I'll make that motion.
No, there's no motion tonight.
Oh,
So it'll be for next week.
okay, gotcha.
Are there any questions about the fee ordinance as it sits?
Yeah, I do. I'm sorry, guys. I know I talk a lot. I don't know what happened. I think there's a string on my back that people just keep pulling. I think I'm part of the Chatty Cathy doll series. I don't know. It is what it is. I've got some really good friends out in the police department that I work with in the military. And some of those guys are state police and some of them are local police and so on and so forth. And I contacted a few of my friends with the state police department. And I gotta be honest with you, that $600 fee, and I know that we've discussed this before, it really seems monstrous. That's a big number for something that somebody is asking for that would support and justify their civil liberties and civil rights. I am asking for a redress on that $600, that it massively be lowered. Thank you.
So I have drafted some language for the board to consider, changing that. So the $600 came because in Allegheny County, when a municipality, or when there's a requester for video footage to the municipality, that request goes straight to the DA's office, Allegheny County DA's office. And their fee is $600 because they have to have a legal review, look at the case, possibly redact it before it gets sent out or approved. So that's where that $600 came from. If you recall, earlier last year or the year before, we drafted an MOU with the Westmoreland County DA's office. That's going to review all of our body cam footage if there's a request, similar to what Allegheny County and other counties are doing in Western PA. I had a conversation with them. They don't anticipate charging us at this time for any of those requests. As a request comes in, it has to go to the DA's office for review. But some of the new language that I've drafted for consideration is a non-refundable deposit of $100 at the time of the request, plus any additional cost associated with the processing of the record that shall include the hourly rate of the custodian of records for the police department and legal review hourly rate. The requester shall be notified of the approximate cost of the processing the record request and make payment in whole prior to the start of the process. The initial $100 deposit will be included in the total fee. Once the record is produced, additional payment and/or refund of overages shall be completed prior to releasing the record. And the reason why I request that hourly rate to come in, because if we have a request come in for, say, an hour-long incident and there's 3 body cameras, there's 3 car camera footages, we're going to have an officer actually look and sit down and take time out of doing patrol or other police duties to look at that footage, and then work with the DA's office to see what can be redacted, what can't be redacted, have a legal review. We don't have that software to redact, to blur any of the video footages. The DA's office does. So that's why that hourly rate was in there, so that way we can recoup any of the cost associated with a police officer reviewing that record or all those video footages, and the solicitors reviewing it as well.
Why would any evidence on a video camcorder be redacted? That is concerning.
So you might have other individuals that are in the video, it could be children that are outside the scope of the actual incident, or other individuals that are in there that aren't part of the investigation. There could also be other information or other things that are there that need to be redacted. I can't say for sure. It's up to the DA's office to say, okay, should this be disseminated or not? But I think it's more of outside of the actual investigation, but you do have body cams. And like I said, children could be walking down the street of a car accident. You have to blur out that face. So something like that.
Is the board okay with that language to be added in, and then it'll be voted to advertise at next week's meeting? Is there any additional language or questions about the language? Okay. Moving on, you'll have an ordinance for consideration for advertisement for Thomas Farm Acres dedication, offering the dedication of the roads and detention facilities and stormwater sewers. Those facilities are ready to be turned over, according to our engineer, to become ownership of North Huntington Township. Number 3 is the business gross receipts collection proposal. As you know, this is an election year for our tax collector. She stated that she is not running. She does collect our business gross receipts tax. Back in October, the Board of Commissioners authorized for proposals for the collection of business gross receipts. We received one from Keystone Collection Groups Again, there's, as I said last year, there's only a handful. Berkheimer, which we canceled, Jordan Tax Service, which did not respond to my email, and Keystone Collections. Looking over the ordinances, we would not have to update the ordinance for the collection because it states tax collector. So it's whoever the Board of Commissioner assigns as the tax collector, which would be Keystone Collections. There is a resolution in place dating back to 2004 that states that that authorizes the tax collector for the collection of the delinquent gross receipts tax. That fee is 7%. And then for the delinquent, but the proposal from Keystone is 6%. Their current business privilege and mercantile tax, they're requesting a 3% of the collection. I believe our tax collector right now receives 5% collection. So that's giving us more money in our pocket for the business grocery receipts. But at some point this year, we should amend the mercantile tax ordinance from 2003 for a couple reasons. Is because one, in there, the tax collector issues the business license every year. I have found since I've been here, there's been some businesses that weren't collecting taxes, and we found out, and the tax collector went to collect the business grocery receipts tax, but they didn't have an occupancy permit, which they needed. So, we just caught just the low-hanging fruit, a couple, but if there's more out there, we won't know. So, but amending that ordinance to take that business license out of the hands of the tax collector and possibly give it to our community development departments. That way, when they know when a business applies for a business license, they get their occupancy inspection and everything performed, and everything's up to code for the safety of the citizens. And also, this goes back to 2003, which at that time, the license fee, it was $10. So, we can provide an aggregate of how much it's gonna cost the administration to process the business license fee. So, probably $20 or $30 increase over the time of the past 20 years. So we can revisit that at a work session later on this year. But as far as the the business privilege tax and the delinquent business privilege tax, we want to get that out of the hands, or we recommend to get that out of the hands of the tax collector, because we're going to have a new tax collector. They're going to be bombarded collecting our real estate tax, our largest portion of our taxes. And this will help immensely, and it'll help streamline some services in our community development department. So with that proposal, if the board likes that proposal, we can have a motion next week for consideration to approve their proposal, and then we can move forward with the appropriate resolutions and agreements. Are there any questions?
Anything regarding? No?
That is all I have.
Moving on to planning and engineering topics, the only thing we had on was the road and subdivision, which is currently on the table. We were awaiting safety input from Chief Rizzo, who's not here tonight. Does anybody would like to bring it from the table for any other reason to discuss? No? All right. Do we have anything else for planning and engineering?
I have
Mr.
nothing further
Enterprise?
this month, no.
All right, thank you.
Nothing from the planning commission.
All right. Old business. Does anybody have anything for old business? No? Seeing none. Any further board comments? No?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Zona, second by Commissioner Haggis. Any further discussion? All those in favor by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Meeting adjourned at 7:42.
No comment, sir? You don't want to talk about threatening the father of a minor child?
was out there.